Live from London, this is Talk Women.
From towns told to shut up and take it, the Conservative Party eating itself alive, and Beckham's drama. Welcome to Talk Women. Today we've got so many issues to get into. It's been a hell of a week last week, and I can't think of a better panel of guests to kind of get into what we need to talk about. But I am going to first go to Kim Bailey, who's been patiently waiting, because she has really been at the centre of what has been going on this week over in Crowborough. Basically, thousands of protesters took to the streets. I was there, and it was particularly over the 27 single male migrants that were moved into this military camp, or shall I say former military camp. They were moved in the middle of the night, pretty much without the locals' knowledge, and I feel like just overnight everything has changed for that town. So there were many out there protesting. Kim has been sort of at the center of it. She's part of this sort of Crowborough Shield, which is vehemently against what has been happening in their town. Kim, how are you feeling after the weekend of protests? There was a massive turnout, wasn't there?
Yeah, it was huge. I think it was our biggest one yet. I think the biggest one to date was around 5,000, but this actually seemed a lot bigger. One of the key issues is that it's not actually a disused army barracks. It's a training centre for cadets that's used by thousands and thousands of cadets, but also young people that do the Duke of Edinburgh Award, the Girl Guides, the Scouts, and none of this has been consulted with in terms of either the cadets or the local community. There's nothing with local organisations, the police, in terms of extra resources. It's just been a complete shambles. And they were moved in under the cover of darkness on Thursday morning after, I think, about 7 hours, 7 hours after the Home Secretary had announced that she'd made her decision. There was 27 that went in to start with, but I think there's been several more, 5 or 6 more coach loads since.
Yeah, it seems like Shabana Mahmood really has plans to continue to do this across the country. I mean, she's basically threatening other towns with this. Now, she said, oh, this is about getting rid of those flashy, expensive hotels, and this is a much cheaper option. This is even a deterrent. I don't think I'm going to fall for that crap. I mean, seeing how those migrants have already implanted themselves within the community. I was reading on Twitter, already a woman was followed around a supermarket, allegedly, and there might be footage of that. We've got women pulling their children out of local schools because they don't feel safe. I spoke to someone at one of the protests saying that, she's got an 18-year-old daughter who catches the bus right outside that barracks. Her daughter won't be able to have that basic freedom anymore. What type of assault has this what type of impact has this assault had on the community?
Well, I mean, as you say, it's alleged at the moment. We have received information about a young woman that was allegedly followed around in the supermarket, which is, really worrying. I haven't had any formal reports, and I'm not sure whether there's a police report at the moment. So at the moment, I don't really know the ins and outs of it, but I will find out. As part of Crowborough Shield, we are taking the legal action, and this is, vital information that we need for the legal case, because the one thing that this site is meant to be is safe, legal and compliant, and in that is risk assessments, safeguarding, impact assessments, and none of that's been done. And that's quite evident if already after a few days we're seeing that there are problems. So we will get to the bottom of it, but at the moment I don't have the information on it that I can share. So
Labour doesn't seem to really be listening, do they? I mean, what would an actual what would something that they could do to the community actually be right now? Because it just seems, I mean, I was actually just looking at Shabana Mahmood do an interview on another station, and she just seems completely blissfully unaware of what is going on. What would you say to Labour right now?
I mean, it's reckless, and Shabana Mahmood is behaving recklessly. She's making these decisions. She's literally moving one problem to another area. There's no solution. She's not giving a solution. She's not providing anything that is tangible that actually shows this is an improvement. It's lip service. She's saying we want to get them out of hotels because it's costly and because it impacts on communities, which is absolutely true. But this is an even bigger impact and an even bigger cost. So I don't understand how she's coming to the conclusion that kicking out thousands of cadets placing 540, and although we say 540, it's actually about 2,400 to 2,800 because they're going to be rolling. So they're only apparently going to be at the camp for 70 to 90 days, and then another 90 will come in, and after that another 90. So this is thousands of different men, and it's just moving problems around. But what she's saying is she wants to reduce the impact on communities. This is not a reduction on a community. This is absolutely destroying a community, or the cohesion of a community, because the fears are real. They're genuine fears that these families have got because they're not being addressed and no one is engaging. And the problem is Shabana Mahmood is going onto these media channels and saying that she's been engaging with communities, engaging with police. She's engaged with no one. The partner organisation, our Wealdon District Council, she hasn't even spoke to them. They don't respond to their letters. And, our Wealdon Council just keep threatening that they're going to explore legal action, but there's nothing tangible coming out of them either. It's the whole thing is just reckless and a shambles.
Absolutely. And I feel like it's women and children that are always put on the front lines of these things. I mean, just today we've had revealed to us that there was an asylum seeker who raped an 18-year-old girl 2 different times, and they obviously the judge called Shiraz Malik was the attacker, but the judge, who I've got Nirmal Shant, they both from kind of the same region of Pakistan, which is quite interesting there, but that's why I kind of got confused. But it's quite interesting how he was protected, and they didn't want the fact that he was an asylum seeker to get out because of, as you said, community cohesion. Do you think that Crowborough is susceptible to one of these attacks? Do you think it's just a matter of time until one of the women or one of the children is sort of sacrificed at the altar of this compassion?
I think wherever you place a large number of men with nothing to do, there is always going to be a risk. There are cultural differences between the people that are coming over on the boats and obviously British culture. But whether you put 540 of these men or 540 other men with nothing to do, the risk is real. It's going to cause problems. There are going to be criminals in that group, and our Sussex Police Crime Commissioner has said that she knows that there will be criminals in those groups of people that come over, because the problem is we know nothing about them. They're coming over undocumented. And we're not talking about 540 men static that over the course of the year will start to integrate or build relationships. They're here for 70 to 90 days and then they're moved on, and then we get someone new. So this is 2,500 men undocumented coming into this town. Of course there's a risk, and even the police accept there is risks. The Police Crime Commissioner has asked for an extra 5.5 million just to police this in the first year. Now that money is not forthcoming at the moment. There has been no additional resources. The only thing that we've got is some CCTV, which may act as a deterrent, but probably not.
Yeah, one of the residents that I spoke to even on the weekend just said that it's turned into a very oppressive environment over there in Crowborough because of all this extra policing. It's making the residents feel more safe, but it's also having other impacts in some way because it's, everyone's being surveilled, and it's just completely changed the fabric of the town. Kim Bailey, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for all the good work that you're doing. Keep going, keep fighting the good fight. I'm sure we'll see you out there in one of the protests quite soon. Well, Kim had a lot to share, and I've got in the studio with me 2 brilliant women. I've got Orla Minihane, chair of Waltham Forest Reform UK and candidate in Epping Forest for Reform UK as well. A very impressive lady. And joining her is Amanda Devlin, the assistant showbiz editor at The Sun. Hello and welcome, both of you.
Welcome. Thank you.
Look, it's been a week, and I do feel like, as we were talking about earlier, you've kind of been covering this for years. You've been banging the drum for a long time, and now it's hitting all these different parts of Britain. Are you surprised by the protests in Crowborough, or is this just a symptom of what's more to come?
No, I think, Crowborough compared to Epping is a lot bigger. It's a bigger town. It's, I think the population's about 22,000.
Yep.
And what's being done to them, if you like, the numbers of men that are going into this camp are far, far bigger than we have in Epping. So in Epping, there's 138 men. And as far as I'm aware, and I'm pretty certain, the men are stagnant, so that it isn't a processing centre such as the migrant camp in Crowborough. Canary Wharf was the same, so the Britannia in Canary Wharf was a processing centre. So this in and out of different men is just so unsettling. I'm not surprised, because I knew that there was so much disdain around what they're doing. And when I went to Crowborough the first time for the first protest, I remember looking around thinking, these people don't know what's hit them. They don't know what's going to hit them, because this is going to be big and this is going to be really troubling. And that's what's happened. So I think it's 9 weeks on, you've got these big protests, which is what we had in Epping in the beginning. As time's gone on, we're 7 months in now. It feels like 7 years. Nothing's changed. We've been through court hearings, we've been through ups and downs, we've been through, yes, we're going to close the hotel, no, we're not going to close the hotel. And now we're in this situation where we're the exact same place as we were 7 months ago. And actually the hotel itself is in a really sort of it's dilapidated, it's in disrepair. We've got gates outside and fencing, and that's as you go into Epping. So Epping's a beautiful town, much like Crowborough, and it just looks like it looks like something from the Bronx in 1920. So it's just put a really sour taste in people's mouths, and that's what's happening in Crowborough.
It's really interesting, isn't it, with Epping, because you actually have a ruling where the Home Office did say, no, the rights of the asylum seekers are above the rights of the British people. You've got basically evidence of how they really feel about you over there. And you've had girls sexually assaulted in your very constituency and nothing done about it. And then, of course, we had the Hadush Kabutu nightmare where he was one of the people, the person who sexually assaulted one of those girls, being let out of prison. I mean, you've really been slapped in the face multiple times by this government. I mean, could it get worse? Do you feel like you've gone to the end of the rails with them and you're just going to have to wait for another government to come in? Or what is the sort of position at the moment in that community? Because I almost feel like we're looking into the future from Crowborough into Epping, if that makes sense.
Look, Shabana Mahmood posted the other day, and I'm sure you saw it, and she almost rejoiced at her decision. Look at me, what a fantastic, I'm moving them to camps, brilliant, we're getting rid of the hotels. No one cares about the hotels. We don't care about the cost of the hotels. That's not the issue. It's the safety and risk that these men pose. So we don't care if they're in a tent or they're in a hotel. They're there. People don't want them there. Now, I've been very, very vocal about who we're seeing coming now. The men that are coming over now are the dregs of the illegal migrants. They're the men that have been sitting in Calais, that have been, most of them, been kicked out of other countries in Europe for various different crimes, or they failed asylum, and now they're coming over here. We are literally the dustbin of Europe. And I mean, that sounds harsh, but it's true. And we have got, you'll see people that have committed a crime in Germany, and then they'll come here, they'll commit another crime. We try to get them deported to Germany, and they won't take them because the ECHR say they can't go. The whole thing is an absolute shambles. In Epping now, we know that the contract with the hotel ends. I think it's in May, April or May, and we think that we don't think that that's going to be extended. But those men are going to be placed in Epping in HMOs, or they're going to go somewhere else and be put in someone else's town and become a risk to someone else's children and someone else's community.
But as if that's not problematic enough. But what I find really concerning is that there are British people who have been homeless out on the streets. How come that crisis wasn't being able to deal with it so quickly, of just suddenly setting up this camp and housing everyone and feeding everyone and looking after our own?
Exactly.
It just feels so troubling that you can see it all happen so much quicker for everyone else, whether they're here illegally or not. And it's worrying.
You make such a good
threat
point
that it comes with, and we've got a lot of people we need to help.
You've got
we
veterans,
need veterans who are there.
Yes, sleeping. We were in Crowborough.
How do they feel about that? It must be infuriating for them to be sat watching the news and seeing this all unfold and think, hang on, where was my support? Where was my help when I really needed it after what I did for our country?
Oh no, it's outrageous. There was a man actually the other day in Crowborough, and we were walking up the hill, and he was sleeping rough. Did you see him? And he was sitting there looking at this protest.
Yeah.
And he had all his worldly belongings, and he's sitting there and it was freezing and raining, and that man's probably sitting there thinking, are you, like, what is going on?
Well, totally. I feel like a lot of these measures were made in Britain in a time of more sort of deeper prosperity, but this is a time of complete austerity. We are a broke country, basically. We're bankrupt if you look at any of the figures. And the fact that you're right, we're ingratiating these asylum seekers as soon as they arrive, or these illegal migrants, as we should call them. It's interesting what you said as well about taking the dregs of society, because even just to bring up this case that's come out today, you know, where we had Lee Anderson, who's a Reform MP, he exposed that basically this rapist asylum seeker basically the judge involved ordered the jury not to be told about his immigration status. And we know that he was born in Pakistan, so he arrived in Italy, then went to Germany, as you said, then France, before coming to the UK. Now, as far as I can see, those are all safe countries. Now, when he got to the UK, he decided to go and rape one of our own. She was 18. It was in a park. And it was multiple times that he raped her. So this is kind of who's being brought in.
And the worst thing is trying
system.
to say that it was consensual. And
yes.
So we go to trial, and thank goodness that Lee Anderson did speak up about this, because the reporting restrictions on this are just absolutely disgusting.
Yeah.
And it needs to be out there. Who is that judge to say otherwise? You know, we are a free press. We deserve to have all of the information.
Yeah. And at the last time I checked, there wasn't a war in Pakistan either.
Well, exactly. And they
So what
they have massive asylum numbers for some reason. I wonder why. I mean, you've got to be a very enterprising individual to go and find a people smuggler and smuggle your way across the channel and do all that. So you're right. It's these men who have already broken the law that we're now we're giving all these freebies to. Even in Crowborough, it's created a lot of tensions because it was found out that they had an on-site NHS GP.
Yep.
I mean, there's no one in Crowborough that can just go and tap a doctor on the shoulder.
Dentist, dentist, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, the thing is as well, we've got, so there's all the cost and the public spend that goes on the accommodation and the meals and everything else. You've got to remember that most of these men also need interpreters. The interpreter bill is off the clock as well. Right. And then the other day we saw I was speaking to Kim, and she said that people were coming in with brand new bags full of coats and trainers, and you know, there are families that can't buy their kids a new pair of trainers because they're trying to make ends meet. So they're having to go to, you know, charity shops, or they have to go into to school and get things from the second-hand box. This is not okay on any level.
That makes me so angry about the doctors being right there for them to access, because I was trying to make my mum an appointment, and you know how you used to be able to call at 8, and then that was a disaster, but now it's going online, and I was trying to help her do it. I couldn't do it. I was really trying to, it just took forever. And going through all the options, all it was saying was like, are you male, female, not specified, like, or do you need a translator? Do you need this? Do you need that? And it was going through everything, and I just thought, my goodness, where have we gone wrong? How has this ended up happening?
Yeah, exactly. You're completely right, Amanda. It's two-tier. It is really that for them and something separate for the British people. That's what it really seems. I mean, even when I was in Hillingdon, which is quite a working class community, there were mums who were saying to me, I have to choose between giving my child dinner or giving my child breakfast before they go to school. And literally across the road from this woman is an asylum hotel where they're getting 3 hot meals prepared for them
and all
per
their
day.
heating and their hot water and, you know, and Sky TV. It's the unfairness is just off the clock. And I, again, going back to Epping, I remember an old lady saying to me, I lost my husband a year ago. I'm 82. I can't put my heating on. And when I go to Tesco, which is in Epping town, I go to pay, and she said, and I've got £5 mainly that I can sway for my sort of, you know, my accounting, if you like, for the month, what I can spend. And she said, and I'm thinking to myself, I need to put that back. Yeah. And these guys are coming in with bags and just taking booze.
Yeah, it's
walking
not
out.
right.
No one challenges them. Then they go to the hotel, you know.
Well, in Wethersfield, they're getting bussed into the town. Yeah. So it's just, and then, you know, you get judges like this from this case today that are saying that they're basically going to hide the identity of this because of basically community cohesion. And the real root cause is not addressed. If we didn't have this inequality, then we wouldn't have community cohesion issues. And I think that's the problem. When the government's trying to keep secrets from us, when they're trying to sweep things under the rug, that's when their actual protests start and when there are issues. And it's quite, in Australia, we actually did solve our illegal immigrant crisis. And we just don't really have this level of almost, I would say it's almost at boiling point. Would you say
Absolutely.
that?
And I mean, the thing is that, as I've always said right from the beginning, and we wrote to the Home Office actually, and a couple of 3 weeks ago nearly, and I said, what is the plan? Because you're not just having to deal with this, 60, I think it's 60,000 people, 60,000 men that have come over since Labour came into government, but they're still coming in.
Yeah.
So, you can't fix a leak when the tap's still on, switch the tap off, and then look at what you're going to do with the ones here. And I have spoken to a whistleblower, and I know that if the asylum is rejected, they will get a letter that goes to the hotel, and it will say, you need to be out of the hotel in 3 days. Nobody checks that they go because they have to leave. No one checks where they're going.
Right.
So what do they think they're going to do? Go online and book a flight Ryanair back to Paris? So there are, I think last count they were there was a publication that said it was about 53,000 people are missing in the UK.
Oh my goodness.
Where they're just, no one knows who they are because no one knows who they were in the beginning. So they're just flitting around. We've seen evidence in Epping Forest of camps being set up where they're just just
it's unacceptable, honestly.
But it's worrying that you've got sort of the authorities working together on it, because with that case that you mentioned, Lee Anderson, he claims that he had been asked not to publicise the case by the police themselves because of fear of jeopardising the prosecution. And you just feel as though, wait, hang on, are we doing this for the safety of other? Like, what is the actual meaning or the reasoning behind this? Is it for our safety?
No, it's not.
And it doesn't feel that way. And I think perception's everything. And we need to know that the people who are in charge we can trust.
Yeah, it's not. It's just to keep everyone quiet because they're terrified that if the truth came out and their numbers came out, there would be absolute anarchy. And today, Stephanie Irons, the girl came, was 23. Her guy that was a Nigerian guy that came here in 2022 pleaded guilty yesterday to her murder, and it's only hit the papers now. Now, I raised that 6 months ago because we found out about it, but because it wasn't in the public domain and it was alleged that he'd killed her, even though he admitted it, nobody was talking about it. So when I started talking about it and said, do you know how many of these women are being murdered? Not just raped, murdered. Everyone said, oh, you're just causing trouble. You're just, no, why am I, I'm not lying.
Well, one is one too many, in this situation.
And we're going to hear, as time goes on, more and more and more of these girls, not just raped and sexually assaulted, although that's horrendous, but murdered as well. And when that comes out, people are going, why haven't we heard about this? Because as you say, they will say, keep it quiet, because if you don't, it will jeopardise the hearing, it will jeopardise the sentencing, and
that's what creates distrust.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely.
Totally. And like one of my biggest issues with all this is that, you can't actually report on it a lot of the time, but B, it's just women and children are put at the front lines of it all, and we're totally sort of written off, and unfortunately a lot of these assaults, a lot of these attacks are happening, and people say, oh, but we have our own rapists in this country. Of course we do, but we don't need to import the issue. That's kind of the bottom line.
Exactly.
I mean, good not to add to the problem that we've already got.
Exactly. It's really a dire situation. I'm glad we can talk about it all as women, because I mean we are the ones actually facing the issues that the government just seems to, in their cozy Westminster bubble, just absolutely doesn't seem to think it's a problem.
It reminds me of going to the doctors as a female and you're seeing a male doctor and you're telling them that something's not right with your body, and they put it down to, it's probably time
hormones.
of the month, it's hormones, it's this and it's that, and you've got girls who are killing themselves with mental health issues because of these that have just gone on for so long not solved, and you just feel that like, well, how come there can't be a bit of trust, the people here who are good, decent people who are telling you about something that's happening that's going really badly wrong, and stop it before it gets out of hand.
You'd think that they'd have learned from the rape gang scandal, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that
exactly.
is just, And I mean, again, this government have done nothing about that. And
Yeah.
In fact, they made it worse.
It's
Jess
just-
Phillips,
and
all
I mean,
of
I
those.
don't even
my
get me
goodness.
started.
No, we need a whole other.
No, that's a
we
whole
need a whole
programme in
other
itself.
podcast for that. But look, yeah, and it's also just quickly. I mean, in cases, they're actually using ages of consent in some of these countries as justification for why those men might have made those moves. So, in Rwanda, it's only this age of consent, so that's why that person felt the need to go and approach a 14-year-old. So it's just a dire situation. We can't keep bending down to whatever the hell they're doing, and I just think it needs to stop.
Yeah.
Well, finally, Britain's most famous family is in a massive feud at the moment. My gosh, Nicola, Victoria, Brooklyn, Romeo, David, Davos, everything's going crazy at the moment. Luckily, I've got an expert in studio, Amanda Devlin. What the hell is going on? Because this has really progressed since we last spoke about it last week.
This is my Super Bowl. It's the Showbiz Super Bowl. This massive famous family, everything looks hunky-dory, and it turns out they all hate each other. We are living for it. I've got one of my best friends from home. He's a sporty guy, no interest in showbiz whatsoever. Texts me, wants the latest, wants to know everything. It's hooked everyone. I won't hear otherwise, and I'm going to see in the comments later. But the latest is that Brooklyn could be set to sign a 7-figure book deal, and it's the same publisher as Prince Harry's Spare. That makes me shudder. It really, really does, because it's another entitled plonker who's going to go trash their family for some cash. Whether he does it or not, I'm not entirely sure. For me, I'm going to try and not be cynical. I'm going to look at it and think that he's someone who has said in his statement that he wants privacy. He doesn't want to seek this attention. Harry did the same. Harry left the UK and his job to have privacy and not be a working royal because he wanted to protect himself and his family.
I saw those confected paparazzi photos Nicola Peltz put him on the beach. Nicola was wearing high heels on a beach. What's that about?
I mean, obviously we know in the industry that there's certain things aren't exactly as they appear to maybe just someone who's reading the Sun paper. There is a controlled narrative that the Beckhams, that their own son has exploited and shown to be what it is. We saw Victoria stepping out with David Beckham and their kids, and their kids' girlfriends, which seemed like a real pointed move to say, look at us, united front. We're all on the same page. It's you guys who aren't aligning with us. It's you who is in the wrong. So it's similar again with Prince Harry. The royals sort of sticking together and Prince Harry and Meghan Markle being on the side. I think that the book deal for Brooklyn is so much more explosive from him rather than the Beckham side, because the Beckhams will still want to control this. They've still not spoken out. What they did say when Victoria was getting that award yesterday was to say family's everything. So they are keeping very much dignified silence, but creating this narrative and this show that everything is as they don't want it like this. Everything would be back to normal if Brooklyn and Nicola would just simply be back on their side. They would welcome them back in with open arms. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, because
I think David was the bigger person though, and he made that quote, kids will be kids, they make mistakes. I think he was, that was an olive branch in its own.
You wonder how many olive branches have been,
And
how long has this
Brooklyn's
gone
not
on?
a kid, is he? How old is he? Is he 30?
27.
Yeah.
Right, he's not a kid. I mean, but the Beckhams got together when they were like 19,
Yeah,
didn't
that's
they?
true, yes,
So,
something like that.
I mean, I live for this, as you know.
I was going to say, Orla,
live
you're a political powerhouse. You're focusing on saving the country in your mind. Do you care about
Yes,
this?
yes. It is
sucked us
literally.
all in.
Yeah. But I mean, I love celebrity. I love the drama. It's literally my what's the word?
Guilty pleasure.
My guilty pleasure. Yeah,
Yes.
I absolutely love it. And I mean, for me, I first of all, I think that he's a brat. I think she's a brat. I think Harry's a brat. And as for Meghan, I can't even begin to tell you how much I
Don't
I
get
love
me
her.
started on that.
So, and I mean, I look at Victoria and David's actually from where I'm from. So he comes from, well, not far. He's from a really working class background. I know I've met his mum, I've met his sister. They're really nice people. They have created Brand Beckham. And I mean, you have to hand it to them. Love them or loathe them. They are, look what they've created. Their PR, the marketing around it is unbelievable. I do think Victoria's probably a very controlling, slightly mental individual, but that's fine. Look what she's created. And I mean, she's created a fashion brand, etc. And as I was saying to you girls, she's the same age as me. I am very partial to a glass of wine myself. And I am very partial to a dance.
Yeah, it was her son's wedding night. Like, you know what I mean? Go have a boogie.
They probably spent like $2 million on the wedding. I'd be drinking and dancing as well, making the most of that.
I think they actually spent about $4 million on the wedding, right? It was something crazy. But you're right. It's. I mean, let the woman live. That's my.
Enjoy it. And I mean, didn't what's his face? Mark Anthony, wasn't he? He said
he's the one.
He's the demon here.
He
said the most attractive woman, Victoria Beckham. Now, if that was my son's wedding, and they said the most attractive woman, Orla, I'd be like, I'd be.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd be like, out the way, everyone, out the way. So I get it.
No, Orla, you make such a good point about David's background, because David's dad. That's probably what I would actually characterize as a potentially abusive relationship, a controlling relationship. That his dad was very hard on him. I think he only said, "I'm proud of you," once he reached the highest of the high sort of rank in football and got some sort of massive award or won some. I'm terrible in sports, but he made it to the top. Yeah, and his dad said, "Well done, son," for the first time.
Sportsman of the year. Yes. I mean, but it's like the Williams sisters. Their dad was notoriously tough on them, but that's what makes you reach for the top. And then Victoria, came from, she wanted to be famous. She wanted fame. She wanted David, because at the time the Spice Girls were nothing compared to David.
I didn't think about that.
You're too young. You see, I remember all this. This is like my heyday. And the Spice Girls were, they'd just done the one song, and she was like, I want David Beckham. Fair enough. So did half the country. Yeah. Right? So good
I look
for
back
her.
on those photos,
but,
and I'm like, okay.
And they've, regardless, and you read these things. I mean, whatever ever happens, you never ever dish your mum. Right, and to your parents.
It's a huge chink in her armour and David's armour, because that we all know about it. We're all talking about it. The Prime Minister was asked about it. It's just captivated the nation for whatever reason, because we're kind of we like to see when things go wrong, when there's this perfection that's put out in front of you. What I found really interesting was how Victoria's reacted, which is, this is just speculation, but when you look at her Instagram page, she's been very savvy. So she's been starting to put on loads of Instagram posts about her businesses, because she knows all eyes are on her Instagram. They know that this is the time to really seize the opportunity, to have her fashion brand, or David's doing this, and or that they're promoting Cruise's single. And remember,
it's a money-making opportunity in like 6 countries.
Of course. And so how this is why it's kind of backfired for Brooklyn hugely. And I think we knew that would happen. A lot of people feared that this would be the end of the Beckham brand. Far from it. This has strengthened it. And we all know that there's problems, but I think it makes them even more relatable in a way. We know that everyone's got issues in their family, so it kind of makes them a little bit more likable. And also, you said about Brooklyn being a brat, him going off to I'm going to be doing my own thing. I want to go off and live my own life without you guys. Well, sorry, they're the ones who have given you that name. I'm sorry, the heiress billionaire, Nicola, would not have looked twice at you.
Of course she wouldn't. Of course she wouldn't. If he was exactly.
And
if he was a poor boy.
And no, what? But it's all on him. And come on,
and also the man hasn't got a career. As I said, he has to marry up. He has married up. He enjoys the very fancy life that Nicola Peltz provides for him. Let's be real about it. And I think then, he's in a position to denounce his family name, and it's almost like he's become very snobby and said, "Oh, look at them. They have to use the press in order to make money." It's like, well, yes, because Victoria and David don't own Disney, like your.
But can you imagine being like your family? You know what it's like. We've all got families who have married people that we've thought.
But I mean, you get this is talk women, so I don't want to put any woman down, because it's important to say that we don't know every single detail from the ins and outs. I know a lot more than I can say, because I don't want to get sued. But you've got Nicola, you don't want to put all of the blame just solely on Nicola. Brooklyn's a grown man.
Yeah,
he should have sorted this out behind the scenes. It didn't need to be public, and now everything's exploded. But I do, again, think that it's backfired incredibly because the Beckhams are going to cash in on this. Brooklyn, he's lost millions in the next few years of branding because it's the same thing.
Same as Harry. Do you know, embarrassing.
So will he go down? Will he go down this book deal route potentially? But he doesn't need to in the same way that Harry does because Meghan wasn't an heiress, whereas to be a billionaire heiress, whereas this Brooklyn needs it, so he doesn't need it. It's
vengeful.
Harry needs it. Brooklyn doesn't need it.
It's a good point,
you know. And I'm just living for it, and I've loved all of the different stories about looking back at the father-son relationship with the Beckhams, and I wrote a deep dive into that about how it's history repeating itself. It's this kind of doomed, like, oh, thank you, and it's like that kind of looking at how it's happened again, and it is interesting with the generational thing with money, isn't it? I mean, it happens kind of time and time again. You look at, David's dad being a very working class, ordinary person. Yeah. David does well and he suddenly has success, and they drift apart because they don't really have much in common anymore. They're spending their lives very differently. Then you get the Nepo baby who's entitled. They've been brought up with a gold, is it silver spoon? Golden spoon. He's probably up at gold. And then what do you get? Yeah. And it trashes this reputation. So I just think there's even more to come, and that you should brace yourselves.
And this nonsense about we want privacy. I mean, it reminds me of that South Park thing, with Harry and Meghan.
It seems like it all over again.
Privacy. Oh, do me a favour.
Will there be a Spice Girls reunion? Victoria was spotted at Emma Bunton's 50th birthday over the weekend.
I mean, again, that was just perfect. It just lined up incredibly well. She hadn't been seen. This was the first time out since everything had happened. There she is in the most iconic girl group at their birthday dinner, all posing together, showing who's the boss.
And
here.
Mel B
Come
wasn't
on, we
there.
are.
Scary wasn't there, so I'm going to step in. I'm here. I'm ready for it.
We've got a secret super fan.
I'm ready for it, everyone. Nigel, I'm sorry. I'm joining the Spice Girls.
Well, with that bombshell,
right?
Defecting to the Spice Girls, I'll take it, honestly. Gosh, that was a Reform UK bombshell for you guys. I told you we bring you the exclusives on this show. Thank you, both of you, for joining me in the studio today. It's been so much fun. Do come back and we'll have a laugh and we'll enjoy. And I'm sure there'll be plenty more stories to get into. And I think the Beckhams, it's not over. It's not over. So thank you. And do tune in next week for another episode of Talk Women. See you there.